Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to PSGL F3 for round 8 around the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. My name is Felix, and I am once again joined by my lovely co-commentator, Jake. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. It's great to be back. It hasn't felt like I've been away for a month like it did last week, and yeah, straight back in with a properly historic venue, one that usually produces a lot of excitement, and well, the standings couldn't be much more exciting going into this race, and we're really hitting that business end to the season now.
Yeah, we had a lot of changes last week throughout the race in terms of the championship standings, with the top 4 drivers in the championship being very, very close to each other, and it's looking to be a fight that carries on towards the very end of the season. Also, to be known, the track, like you mentioned, a very special one, and I hear kind of an echo. I don't know if that's coming from me or from you.
I'm not sure. I can't hear it at my end, so
All right.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Now it's gone. All right. Talking about Spa, one of the special tracks of the F1 calendar, obviously the longest track on the F1 calendar, featuring 19 corners and 7 kilometers long. A track that I personally love. I went there in 2016, 17, and 18 for the Belgium Grand Prix, and it's a great track in real life for racing. On the F1 game, it's more of a tactical game. Do you think we'll see more racing or more tactics with the battery today?
I hopefully we'll see. I think you always get a bit of battery deployment tactics going on, but I hope we'll get plenty of good racing too. I suspect we'll see a lot of DRS trains formed, but qualifying's still going to be super important. You really want to make sure you're up near that sharp end of a grid and give yourself the best confidence booster going into the race. And we don't know yet what the weather's going to be like in the race, but Spa is one of those tracks where you can never count out rain, even if it does look incredibly sunny right now.
Yeah, just to update you guys on the championship standings, we currently have the top 4 all within 10 points of each other. We had the previous championship leader, Rick, with another poor showing in Portugal, unfortunately for him, who's not been on the best of streaks recently, who lost the championship lead then, and who needs to bounce back for this week. Max, who won in Portugal, also took the fastest lap with him, and with that took the championship lead by 2 points ahead of Black Box, who's still very closely following, who won in Silverstone and got second in Portugal. And that's actually exactly the same podium in terms of drivers we had in the previous 2 races. It's our top 3 in the championship: Max, Black Box, and Johan.
Yeah, you virtually took the words right out of my mouth. I was actually going to mention the same thing. Yeah, the top 3, but in a different order. And, you know, it's the first time since the opening round where Rick finds himself not leading a championship. And not only that, he dropped from 1st down to 4th. It's quite a major blow, really, when you think about it. And he's still very much in contention points-wise, but you can't help feeling he needs a good result sooner rather than later just to make himself feel like he's in contention again.
Yeah, obviously a mindset is a pretty big thing in racing, and I feel like Rick doesn't have the best of mindsets in the last couple of races. Maybe he felt a bit too comfortable after his great start to the season with 2 third places and 1 first place in Bahrain. And since then, he's never gotten on the podium back again. A streak of 4 races without a podium is not what you need to stay inside the championship fight. And what I still want to mention is that Black Box obviously missed the race in Monaco, where he scored 0 points, but Johan won it. But luckily for him, Max didn't score in that race either. So that kind of saved him a little bit. But he is at a disadvantage of 1 less race so far.
Yeah, for sure. Max already showing just that he means business, setting the provisional pole time. And as well, it's also worth pointing out that I think as well, since for the first time in many races, Alfa Romeo are off the top of the constructors as well. Rick and Kryptonite have been a pretty solid partnership, but their points have just dried out for both of them, really. And now you've got Aston Martin leading the way. for the first time this season, and they really have been the dominant team in recent rounds. So it's interesting how it's shaping up in both championships, and the early laps in qualifying suggest we could be in for some interesting results tonight. Interesting to point out that Ates in P2 at the moment, he's one of the reserves. He's only actually done 2 races this season, and one of them was the opening round at Spain, which he won. So he's clearly a quick driver. We just haven't seen enough of him this season.
Yeah, because attendance was pretty good so far in this season. I remember only a couple of races where we didn't have a grid with at least 17 or more drivers today or tonight. Once again, 19 drivers, which is absolutely great to see because you always want as many drivers as possible in a league attending week in, week out, as Kryptonite had a little moment going into the pit lane. Let's see if anyone is out on a lap, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like everyone is just coming back to the pits, obviously with such a long track length. It's going to take some time to go around the track, and you can't really afford to invalidate with which a lot of those guys outside the top 10 have done though.
Yeah, we've got Ghost King and Ryman just starting their laps. Unless I'm mistaken, Ryman, yeah, he's not. He didn't score at Silverstone, but he was in the race. I was going to say he's not a name that I'm too familiar with, but he has had one appearance so far in F4. So see how he gets on. He's another reserve who's stepping in. I can't remember just quite who he's stepping in for, but of course, any constructors' points he gets won't count towards Ferrari's total. It's just a car that he's been allocated. Ghost King going super deep there on his lap. Yeah, it's good to have great attendance throughout the season, and usually this is the kind of point of the season where that can start to be affected. You know, drivers lose motivation if they're not fighting for wins and championships. And of course, we are getting towards that stage of a game cycle as well. You know, the first season you usually expect good attendance, but it can start to drop away as the game gets a bit older and everyone starts to look forward to the new game, which is probably still around 6 months away. But Ghost King on a lap, and his sector times they're competitive. I don't think he's about to stick it on pole, but it should be somewhere in the midfield, I imagine.
At least inside the top 12 he will go, or he will stay at least.
I'll say top 10. I'll be a bit braver than that.
Ooh. Yeah, Kryptonite, no, his best lap so far. Oh, that's a clumsy run, and it's not top 10. You were wrong.
I put the curse on that wonderfully. I'm good at that.
And same with the Ryman. As I think Fruitful is out on a lap, who I thought was going to be commentating with us tonight for a moment, as he was in spectator in the lobby for a long time, as he wobbles out of Brussels and coming into Pulhon. It's lovely to know all the different corner names around Spa just because they're so iconic. And
Yes.
but I gotta say, it's a shame how awfully made this track is on this game. If I'm completely honest, I mean, if you compare it to other racing games with laser scan tracks, Spa is absolutely brilliant to drive. And on this game, it's like, meh.
Fruitful's it's a disappointing season for him, really. He's had that 1 second place in Zandvoort, but he's had 4 DNFs in 7 races, which is too high. He'll be the first to admit that, but the pace is there. He showed that in the Dutch Grand Prix. His sector times are looking pretty solid. I haven't jinxed him, so that's good. And he goes up to line, yeah, P5. I thought it looked like a solid lap. Just sort of directly behind his teammate as it stands on the grid.
Yeah, not too bad for him, especially only being 3 tenths off around the track. As long as this one is, it's not too bad for Fruitful, and I would actually like him to do a good job here this weekend. Maybe, you know, finding his rhythm a bit more, finding his feet in this division towards the later stage of this season, and same with Rick. But he found his feet at the start of the season and kind of lost balance as soon as round 4 came up. It was still solid inside the points, but it's kind of gone more and more downhill for him in the previous weeks. But hopefully it will change now. In Portugal, he had a bit of bad luck and then made a bold strategy call, which I can't blame him for at all with the rain, but it didn't get heavier, which he needed it to get, and in the end he had to make another pit stop, putting him outside the points. But hopefully he can do this lap as he slightly loses the rear end coming out of Stavelo. But he's still on his lap, not invalidated. That's a good sign, and it's now only the bus stop chicane coming up, which is in fact not called bus stop chicane. It's called La Chicane, but we'll just call it bus stop just because it used to be bus stop, and probably one of the slowest corners around this track. And he goes into P4. Good job from Rick with that. Well inside the top 10 positions, and he'll need a good starting position, because I tell you what, turn 1 is really not too fun, and Max goes even quicker so far. Let's see where he comes up, and wow, nearly a 2/10 improvement from Max, just proving his point here in this quali session that he has got pace once again this week, and he's willing to extend that championship lead that he got last week.
Yeah, once again, he's really mastering the art of qualifying right now, and that's making it so difficult for his competitors to challenge him. That's a nice round boosting lap though for Rick, and one he needed, because qualifying has kind of been the beginning of his downfall. He's too often found himself in the midfield, and it's so easy just to get caught up in incidents when you're in that midfield gang on such a full grid. So that's a good lap for Rick, and maybe with that banker time in, he could maybe find some more time on his final run. Jabraka, while that was happening, he popped it into P2. Nice lap from the Aston Martin driver. I said Aston Martin have been scoring a lot of points recently. Jabraka's actually kind of been playing a support role to Johan, but there's no doubt about it. On his day, Jabraka is very, very quick, and you know he might be the number 2 in that team, so to speak. But he's not a million miles off Johan, and right now he's overshadowing his teammate in qualifying.
I'm not quite sure what Johan's plan is. He is backed off. He's only P9. I don't know if he wants to go for another run. We've got yellow flags in the third sector. That's why I can't see the time that is remaining in this session. P9 is really not the best position to start in. But I tell you what, you wouldn't like pole position all too much around this track either, because I feel like P2 or P3 usually have the better shot at leading going into Les Combes on the opening lap. At least in real life, that's what we saw quite a lot in the previous years. I remember a certain German Sebastian Vettel going past Lewis Hamilton in 2018, starting from P2 on the grid, with a very famous quote being shouted by David Croft along the Kemmel Straight. And I feel like that could be a good opportunity to gain some positions at the start. Ghost King is very far off the line here, and it looks like he's not really trying anymore. Nah, he's got no ERS left, so I reckon he's just going back to the pits. But yeah, I think ERS management is going to be a big point here today, because overtaking is really not that difficult, and you can comfortably enjoy someone's slipstream and DRS when you're sitting in a train, and it really helps staying with other people even though you're maybe not quite on the same pace as they are.
No, absolutely. It's all about just trying to conserve that ERS if you can while remaining competitive and in a good position. The last thing you want to do is use up all your battery and find yourself under pressure. So it's going to be a lot about management for these guys over the 22 laps. And drivers now starting to come out for their final runs in qualifying. And yeah, we've got the 4 championship contenders: Max, Johan, Black Box, and Rick. And the one most under pressure going into his final lap is Johan, who only finds himself P9 at the moment. And you imagine if he doesn't improve on that lap time, he'll probably find himself out of the top 10. So this is a huge lap in particular for him, and a huge lap for everyone else, just to see if they can match or beat Max's lap time, because he's starting to look pretty unstoppable come qualifying.
What I was very surprised about last week was the braveness of those fighting for a championship, because we talked about Turn 1 and Portimao where the championship leaders having a lot to lose and maybe backing out here and there just to be safe. But it was the exact opposite. I remember Black Box and Max absolutely going for it into turn one on the opening lap. And that really surprised me, but it shows some determination as well. I mean, it's that kind of aggressiveness that you actually need to win a championship as well. We see it in real life. We see in real life many times the successful drivers are pretty aggressive. You can. There are always drivers who are less aggressive and still successful, like a Sebastian Vettel or a Lewis Hamilton. But you can see Fernando Alonso, Michael Schumacher, Max Verstappen, Ayrton Senna, all those guys who are pretty aggressive and they still were very successful in their careers. And you have to find that right balance in between being aggressive but also not throwing it all away.
Yeah, you've got to channel that aggression in the right way, and it was great to see the championship contenders last week really fighting tooth and nail. They weren't the championship would have been in their mind, but it wasn't affecting the way they were racing each other, because sometimes you can almost be too conservative. You think about the title too much, and you instead of being cautious, you end up being passive. And once you start being passive, you lose that edge in performance, and you can almost throw it away by being too conservative. So. But no such problem for these guys, and hopefully that continues tonight. Fruitful was the first driver on his final fine lap, but he is invalidated around P1, ran too wide over the outside curb. So I believe the next driver is then Ethan, and then Ates, and then after that I'm not too sure. But Ates has invalidated as well, so he won't be improving from P3.
Yeah, Ethan currently the last of those guys who have set a lap time in this session. Ghost King won't be able to set another one. Ethan only slightly improving so far. He's not going to go up the order that much. I don't know if that Hersey behind him. No, that is the other Alpine of Zane, who, wow, is 5/10s up on his time, it says to me, and that could bring up the order quite a lot. Currently that would put him into P2. So let's see what he can do as he comes into the final chicane of the bus stop, and he just needs to get a nice and tidy run, get a good exit. He goes up into fourth for the extra traction above that bump, and he goes up into P2. Wow, great lap from Zane there. Jabraka is off the track.
Yeah, Jabraka and Max have invalidated. They're not going to go any quicker.
And Black Box.
Rick. Keep an eye on Johan. He is on a better lap coming up to the bus stop chicane.
Oh, that is his chance to jump ahead of Rick and Black Box as Mally puts himself up into that top 5 position. And there goes Johan then up into P4. And suddenly, the one that was under pressure the most in this quali session jumps up to 4th. And Rick and Black Box, who have both invalidated their final laps, are down at P7 and P8.
Yeah, that's really turned things around. Rick and Black Box just couldn't get the last laps together. I think Alberto is the only driver who's still on a lap. Alberto across the line, only P14 for the Red Bull driver. So it's Max on pole position, and probably to a lot of people's surprise, Zane in P2. I've got to be honest, that literally came out of nowhere.
I mean, seeing Max in a dominant pole position is something we got used to. Damiano gets a 5-place grip penalty that drops him down to last. Yeah, I mean, by nearly 2/10s as well. And look at how close the rest of the field is. So quite a dominant pole position, considering how close qualifying usually is. And Damiano picks up another penalty. But Damiano's not even on the... I mean, he's not even really driving anymore.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's he's not lost out too much with those ridiculous penalties, but nevertheless, still got to be very frustrating.
Here we go then. We've got Max on pole, with a surprising Zane in second. Jabraka, who we saw many times some glimpses of his good pace, but today in quali he's done a really good job putting his Aston Martin in third, ahead of his teammate Johan, who were right at the death of time in this quali session, put his Aston Martin on the second row of the grid, ahead of two of his championship competitors, Rick and Blackbox. Rick at least beat one of his championship rivals, but still P7 is not a position he would like to start in.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, I was just having a look there to see how Marley's season's gone, because his P5 also very much unexpected. He has had a podium at the opening round, but since then a fourth at Silverstone, not pulled up trees much. He is P9 in the championship, so he's higher up than I expected. Zane, the highest finish he's had is P6, so he's had regular points, but it's always been back end of the points. So P2 starting, he's got a really good opportunity to change that. It looks like it's a dry start to the race at the least, so maybe setup isn't going to be an issue for these guys either. And yeah, just while we're waiting for the race start, give a special thanks to our sponsor, GT Omega. You can check them out at gtomega.co.uk, and if you use the code PSGL, you can get yourself a discount on some of their, if you want to get a bit of a gaming sim setup, if you want to be potentially on this grid next season, you can get yourself some good products to help you towards that.
Now, with that being said, we are waiting for that final countdown. Once again, no formation lap, as we're not quite sure if that patch today has really fixed the glitches that were there with the formation lap. As it's Cody's and EA, I don't think it has, but at least we got some kind of a patch. So the drivers are preparing in the final moments before round 8 of this championship. And now every single race counts as the lights are coming on for the race at Spa. And we are underway. Max seems to have gotten away quite well. He's able to defend his first position down into turn 1. Jabraka seems to having a little look at Zane coming down into La Source as they accelerate out of the corner and down towards Eau Rouge, and then Radion. Max leads by quite a comfortable gap. It looks like Johan has lost the position to Mali as they're fighting around. Rick is going side by side with Atis coming up. Radion, that is very close in between the two of him, but it looks like Atis has just been able to defend himself as Rick has already gained a position and is trying to get past now as well. Blackbox sitting behind and waiting for that, and we've got yellow flags and the safety car out on the track. I don't know exactly what happened, but Ryman is out of this race.
It looks like there was a free car incident between Ethan, Hersey and Ryman, and it's the end of a Ferrari driver's race very prematurely. And after that exciting start, unfortunately we're under safety car conditions very early on. But yeah, 20 drivers going through those first few corners. It was almost inevitable that it wasn't going to be plain sailing for all 20 of them.
And it looks like Rick was a bit more careful than Atis was through Varion. I can understand that, because maybe he will try and find a rhythm back into that championship fight. And I don't blame him for trying to play it safe on the opening lap. There's not that much to gain and a lot to lose on the first lap. And it looks like we've got different tyre strategies going on, with Max starting on the mediums, obviously being able to defend his race lead with that, ahead of Zane, who has also decided to start on the mediums. And we've got Jabraka and Mali on hards, Johan on mediums, and then every other driver who's still in the race, apart from Kryptonite, has decided to go on the hard tyre, which is usually, around most tracks, the preferred strategy.
Yeah, despite the crazy start, there was only one switch of position in the top 8 drivers, and that was Marley getting past Johan, which is surprising when you look at the tyres, because effectively Marley's gained a position on Johan on the slower tyre. So Johan probably looking to make up ground at the start on mediums. It's kind of backfired a little bit, and he's got a couple of hard tyre runners in front of him who he'll really need to get past on the restart.
Good to see that Damiano made up nearly all of the places he lost because of those penalties again. After he started in P20. We've now actually got 20 drivers, yeah. But yeah, who was in 19?
I think did Alberto join during qualifying?
I think might be, but he started in 14. Yeah, might
Um,
be, but at the start of quali we were only 19 drivers. Now we're 20,
yeah,
and now we're back down to 19 after that crash. And I don't quite know actually why the Aston Martin safety car is around Spa, because we heard in real life the Mercedes safety car seems to be quite a lot faster than the Aston Martin one.
yeah. Some of
And
these drivers, particularly on hard tyres, won't enjoy this phase under the safety car because it's going to be even harder for those hard tyre runners to get the temperature back into those tyres.
yeah, first of all, the temperatures, and second of all, um, the guys on mediums can extend their stint now a little bit. Obviously, it takes a bit from the advantage away that they would have had now in these opening laps, but also they can just drag the stint a bit more along and have less laps on the hard tires and more laps on the mediums. But yeah, I think that might have not been the last safety car for tonight. Usually we have at least one or two, and we can see the predicted pit stop strategy. I don't think it's going to be a two-stop. It's going to be a one-stop from medium to hard, or the other way around. And the safety car is not coming in yet, sadly, even though every driver has joined that train of cars now.
Yeah, I think I'd certainly like to see the safety car be a little more unpredictable in terms of when it comes in. Often it does tend to wait for drivers to catch up, which can be very frustrating when you're waiting 30-40 seconds and people keep pitting and you have to wait 3 laps for the safety car to come in, when in theory I don't think it should wait for everyone to catch up. In fact, we've got some pit stops.
Yeah.
Kryptonite and Fruitful, and also Ghost King.
Okay, Kryptonite started on mediums. And
Did he go cards to the end from here?
I'd be surprised if he could, if I'm honest. Fruitful's gone on to Inters. Okay, I don't think that was planned.
I wonder if there is some rain forecast though. Would that potentially suggest
it is getting?
Why,
oh, you're right. It is getting quite overcast. But
I wonder if those guys who started on mediums are thinking that the rains are going to come early enough that they can just go from medium to inters.
I'm not quite sure. What I thought with Kryptonite maybe was that. Yeah, I can't really think of a reason why he pitted from mediums onto hards. I mean, I can understand from the hard runners because they could do a double medium stint then. And we've got someone without a front wing, and that is Hersey, who's lost his entire front wing. Same with Ethan. Both have lost their whole front wing.
I wonder if I was in contact, but they're not even next to each other. That's very odd word, not next to each other. Now they are. That's very strange. Yeah, I don't understand Kryptonite pitting if there is rain forecast, because he was sort of running P11 on mediums in a good position to attack on the restart. Now he's running P17 on hards. Fruitful, I mean, he needs it to literally bucket it down with rain right now, which I don't think it's going to. The problem for Ethan and Hersey here is that I'm be shocked if the safety car's not in at the end of this lap, and they're going to have to come straight into the pits for a front wing.
Yeah, it is coming in. So, yeah, it's gone horribly wrong for Ethan and Hersey, who are both running with a very low drag setup. And
I just wonder, we talked about Max's outstanding qualifying performance. Was he running more towards a dry setup? Will a change in weather potentially harm him? I mean, he had a very comfortable opening to the race, but maybe things are going to get a bit trickier for him later on.
As he is weaving, coming through Blanchimon, as he's controlling the pace, becoming the safety car effectively. There's no overtaking until the start-finish line, and he's only just gone now already, which is quite early, but it looks like he's caught Zane napping a little bit, because he's got quite a comfortable gap already. Damiano and Pedro have already switched positions, which is actually not illegal. Damiano gives the place back now, regains it, as Pedro now pits. So does Ethan, and so does Hersey. Both of them had that front wing gone. And, yeah, I'm keen to see how much Fruitful is going to drop now against all the
Yep.
others.
Ghost King's already got past him very comfortably indeed. I don't understand it personally, but we'll see medium tyres for Pedro, Hersey and Ethan. And comfortable lead out front for Max. Johan looking at the back of Marley, but not quite close enough. But Marley ran a bit deep there into Lacombe and then through Malmedy, so he's under a bit of pressure. Can Johan maybe have a look at the inside? He thought about it. Marley not looking all too comfortable on the restart, and that may be because that Johan's on the faster tyre and he's got more temperature into it quicker.
And
But
there's rain. There is rain on the track, and it needs to hit as hard as it possibly can for Fruitful, who's only lost half a second. What?
Damiano's lost a bit of time behind. I wonder if that might be one of the reasons, but yeah, Fruitful's not actually lost out too much here. And you have to say, if you started on medium tyres, I think you made the right decision, because this rain's going to stay. If this rain comes down quickly, then these medium tyres are going to have no problem at all.
Yeah, Zane and Max are using the maximum of their medium tyres now, already building up more than 1.5 seconds to the cars behind them. And look at Malley, he's struggling quite a lot as well against the medium tyres of Johan behind, and he goes a little bit deep into...
Jabraka went wide as well.
Stop, yeah, and it looks like the drivers have started to struggle, maybe because of the rain as well. Max picks up the fastest lap crucially, and there goes Johan. Then it has a little look around the outside through La Source. If that goes well, he might make the move, but he gets pushed up wide a little bit onto the curb on the outside. He's still alongside, but now he has to back out for now and sit in the slipstream. But you need to gain the momentum out of Radion now, and it looks like he has gained that momentum to be able to make the move. He's using his overtake button as much as he possibly can, but it looks like that Mercedes is just that little bit too quick on the straight, and he didn't have the momentum that he needs. Yeah, he tries around the outside now into late combat. Atis has a little look now as he joins the party, and Atis makes use of that as in the best way possible and gets past Johan, who is instead of gained a position going up to P4, he drops down to P5, and it looks like, look at how much Jabraka is struggling.
Yeah, Max and Zane are going to be in a race on their own here, because everyone behind them is just massively struggling. And look at Fruitful, he's not losing too much time. It's going to be interesting to see where he is in relation to everyone else when they pit. He could be smack bang in contention at the front.
Oh, and look at Ates. Ates is trying to find a little gap here to get past Malley, who's stuck behind Jabraka, who seems to be holding up that entire pack behind him all the way down to, what is it, P12, with Alberto being the last in this train. And it looks like Malley is still not close enough to make a move, but Aegis is getting closer and closer to make a move on Malley ahead in his house. Max Pitts.
Oh, Zane! Zane has lost it coming into the pits.
Oh, goodness.
He's gonna have lost some time there. He managed to
Atis stays out. So does Rick, as Rick loses it nearly. Same with Atis, and you can just see how much everyone's struggling. Black Box is really close to the back of Rick now. Two championship contenders staying out, even though their teammates didn't pit ahead of them. Interesting. Now let's keep an eye on Fruitful.
He's in front of Max.
He's gaining. He's in front of Max, so effectively Fruitful is right now in the lead of this race.
It's incredible. Just hope he hasn't taken out too much out of those inters while it was still a little bit dry. But you got Black Box and Rick super close there. Ates now leading the way, and have these guys left it a lap too late, or were they right to stay out? It's such a long lap here. I think some drivers just did not want to get caught out.
It looks like everyone's struggling now. Look at the track. It's pretty damp already. Obviously, we can't see when the DRS is being disabled by the FIA, because it was never enabled because of that safety car right on lap 1. But it looks like those guys are not going all too quickly. Fruitful's gaining on Kryptonite now, who's just right ahead of him, and it looks like now the inters are starting to grip in. The question is, can Fruitful take these inters right until the end of this race, or has he worn them out too much on these 2 or 3 laps that he did on them in the dry?
Yeah, and his Kryptonite's now a roadblock for him. He can't find a way through. Max doesn't need to rush this. He's got a comfortable lead over Zayn, but he's still getting impatient behind. And here we go, Fruitful's going to have a move surely here on Kryptonite. They're going to go side by side. This is brave stuff. Surely everyone else is going to be pitting now who hasn't already for the Inters. But wow, right around the outside. That's so brave. And he makes it stick Fruitful. Max follows him through, but doesn't think about a move on the McLaren. Just wants to get past Kryptonite, who stays out again, does he?
Yeah,
Yes,
same
he does.
with Morbarog, ATES and Black Box. Interesting decision from them. Maybe the rain is supposed to stop straight away again, and they think they would lose too much time pitting now instead of just staying out and taking that time that they're losing right now for a couple of laps, because that rain doesn't look all too heavy. The track looks completely wet, but the rain doesn't look too heavy, if I'm honest. Oh, and
Yeah,
look at how Max is losing the rear end coming out of Radeon, and he's willing to take that effective lead, which will become the lead as soon as those guys ahead pit, or they lose too much time. And there he goes, Max back into P4 ahead of the first of those other intermediate runners now. And those two are in a league of their own now, because Kryptonite just went off on his hard tyres and has lost the position to Zayn.
Something we haven't noticed, it looks like Johan's made a second stop. Has he had an issue? He's down to 17th place.
Has he maybe pitted onto the wrong tyre?
Yeah, Johan's lost a lot of positions, and look, the guys who stayed out on dries have got no grip whatsoever. Max has already passed Black Box. This is completely flicking the championship around, and for Max this could be brilliant, because a lot of his championship contenders are struggling.
I don't know why they're staying out. It must be the rain stopping within the next couple of minutes, and they're just hoping to not lose too much time. I mean, if they lose less than 20 seconds to those guys who just passed them now, it would be alright, because they would get past them again. But still, then they'd have to make another pit stop for another set of the slick tyres, because you can't take those hard until the end, I reckon.
Unless they're thinking if we leave the Inters longer, we can perhaps... Yeah, maybe they're thinking those who pitted for the Inters earlier might struggle to get them to the end.
Yeah, but...
oh, we got a yellow flag.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a safety car?
It's a full course yellow. And yeah, look at... Yeah, Kryptonite has got no grip whatsoever. And I think that was the worst possible decision they could have made. Sorry to say that harshly, but just the way it is. Look at where they are now and look at where they were before. I mean, even Rick pitted one lap later than all the others, and pitted one lap sooner than Black Box and ATES, and look at the gap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just such a long track that you can't afford to stay out one lap too long or pit one lap too early. And even Rick has lost a couple of positions, but this is his chance to gain some points back, at least on the other two drivers in the championship fight, not against Max, because he's out in the lead and he must be pretty comfortable. And Zay gets a penalty, a drive-through penalty.
I was about to say, I don't think it's a full course safety car, because I couldn't see the icon there. So yeah, back in the race conditions, but Zayn has got it horribly wrong, and a few mistakes have really cost him. He half spun into the pit lane, and now he's really... I mean, he's going to have to serve out drive-through penalty in the next 3 laps, is that correct?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big blow for him. That's going to drop him probably outside the points. But look at all the different strategies, what it's done to the grid. We have a completely mixed up order now. And Fruitful, we were unsure about his decision to go into intermediates. I think ultimately it's paid off brilliantly for him.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out for what reason Black Box and ATES could have stayed out that long. I mean, the track was clearly already too wet for the slicks on the lap before he pitted. There goes Kieran, by the way, on Mally into the bus stop chicane. First one to try there tonight, and he's having a little look around the outside now. It's going to turn into the inside line for La Source. And he's looking for the inside, and he gets pushed into the wall nearly on the inside. And there goes Mali with a switchback. Great defense from the Mercedes driver, and it looks like he's able to keep his position for now. But up comes Rouge, and then Radion and the Camel straight afterwards. And he needs a good run out of that in order to stay ahead. Zayn has just served his drive-through penalty. Rick goes off the track behind them. And let's see if Kieran is now able to make the move. Mali defends the inside line, and into Lecom. They're going side by side, and it's very tight in between those two. There's barely hair fitting in between, and a huge outbreaking maneuver from Kieran, and Mali goes off the track as well, and he blocks Rick completely.
Yep, and Rick has taken advantage, got past Kieran. He's going to have a look at Mali. Is he? Oh, look at this. Kieran right around the outside. Is he going to make it stick on Rick? Yeah, they're going to continue to go side by side. Wow, that's super close racing. How have they not come to blows there? And that gives Mali a bit of respite, while Kieran and Rick battle it out with Alberto now looking to join in the fun. That was, I have to say, fantastic stuff.
Yeah, but I gotta say, it looked like Mali just braked way too late, and with that shoved Kieran off the track, who completely went off. And I don't think it's that legal that both of them are still ahead of Rick, because it looked very clumsy how Mali came back onto the racetrack, and the way that he blocked Rick didn't look all too legal. But a great move from Kieran to gain that position back after completely missing Lecom.
I'm just having a look at ATES and Black Box and their gaps to the race leader, because I'm still thinking, did they stay out so that they could, so they wouldn't have to pit again? Because I'm wondering, those who pitted early, are they going to struggle to get those inters to the end? That can be the only thing I'm thinking made some of those drivers stay out. And if they have got one less pit stop to do, ATES and Black Box are not out of contention for maybe a podium here. But it all depends now how well the drivers at the front can conserve their tyres. Fruitful in particular surely can't make it to the end on those.
Yeah, because the track is so long that 2 laps, staying out for 2 more laps, really does make a big difference, and it could change the race. Like you mentioned, that would be the only possible solution. Otherwise, I don't think anything else makes a lot of sense for them. And it looks like Kieran has found his way back to be right behind Mali. And I think they've got a little rivalry going on throughout this race now. And I think that is going to be a battle that continues on. By the way, Jabraka is one of the most silent drivers we've got out on track right now, because I didn't see a single thing of him so far in this race. And he's sitting in P3.
Yeah, we sort of saw him when the rain started to fall. He was kind of a driver holding everybody up behind the top 2, which at the time also was Max and Zayn. But yeah, he's just quietly gone about things. He's not pulling massively away from Mali, but I don't think he's holding him up either. Kieran, to me, looks like he's got some decent pace in AlphaTauri. It looks like he's prepared to go on the offensive. So I definitely think he's a driver to keep an eye on.
Oh, look at Atis, who's got a great run out of Sabalo, and he's trying it. He's got the inside line through Blanchimon. Is that going to go good? Is that going to go well? Yes, it is. And it's going to be a great move from Atis, and he moves up into P9 out of Ghost King. And it looks like he is struggling less than Black Box is at the moment, because Black Box is still behind Damiano and Ghost King for the moment, and Atis has gone past both of them.
Yeah, and poor Zayn, after saving that drive-through penalty, he finds himself down in 14th now, and could have been a podium, could have been so much more, but that just a couple of errors have really cost him. Kryptonite, you know, I remember last week you were saying in these sort of races, he's one driver you would back to do great things, but he's kind of gone missing again tonight.
Yeah, because he has pitted onto hards, which I didn't really understand all too much. Then he stayed out quite long as well on the slicks. So strategically, it wasn't the best race for Kryptonite so far. And he's 12 seconds behind Zayn, who has to have the drive-through penalty. So not the best of races for Kryptonite, and it looks like his streak of bad luck or bad decisions keeps on going.
I've just compared the top four's lap times the last time around because I had a feeling this was the case. Fruitful 155.7, Jabraka Amali 55.6s, Max 54.6. He's a second quicker than everyone else.
And remember, he's had pole, so it's either he found the perfect setup for dry and wet conditions, or he's just absolutely rapid around this track. I think it might be a bit of both, but that is insane, the gap he pulled to Fruitful as well. And remember, we were talking about Fruitful in qualifying, that he retired in many races, and we would like to see him do well here tonight, and it looks like he's on the best way to do it.
Yeah, he was already prepared to give up and go in the commentary box with us, but thankfully he didn't, and he's doing what he does best, and that is at the moment producing a very good performance. And worth noting as well, each of Max's two wins this season, he's got the fastest lap in both. He has the fastest lap in this race, and we know that's not going to be beaten unless it dries up.
And it doesn't look like the weather is clearing off anytime soon. But it looks like Kevin is finally getting past Mali. Yeah, they've spun! Mali is around through Lecom and had to reset the car. And there goes Henry, who passed him as well. And he's just dropped from 4th all the way down to 8th. I only saw the last bits of that fight, so I can't really judge on what happened exactly. But he's lost 4 positions within 1 corner. And it's gone horribly wrong for him.
Yeah, those two were fighting very hard. Like you, I didn't quite catch what happened, but it'd be interesting to see if there's any comments about that after the race. Kieran up into P4, but maybe in slightly controversial fashion. And I tell you who really has been Mr. Quiet this race, but is just finding himself into a decent position here is Rick. You know, we've talked about him losing ground in the championship, but he's up to P5 now. He's the furthest up out of the championship contenders, apart from Max, of course. And with Black Box and Yoan looking at the moment like they're not going to score all too many points, this could just be the result, just to get Rick back interested in the title fight.
So something happened to Damiano. He's just lost 2 positions within a few seconds. And where did Alberto come from? Alberto is in 6th, which is great because I think he started in P14. Yes, he did. And suddenly he's up there in P6 and he's comfortable in P6. I mean, he's got 3 seconds behind to Henry and 1.3 ahead to Rick, who's looking to come closer and closer to P4 here. And I think he's willing to get that podium here tonight, to fight back a little bit, and he's gaining, but it's not going to be enough on this Camel Straight, at least on lap 13 here. And 10 laps to go. There's still everything to play for him. But yeah, Alberto is doing great.
Yeah, just found himself into a nice position. The only driver out there who I think is actually matching Max's lap times is Ates, and he is now right on the back of Marley, who's still trying to recover, of course, from that incident with Kieran. But Ates is on a march right now, and he's right behind. If he can get past Marley, he's then got Anryu in front of him, and after that he's got a bit of clear air. So important few laps for Ates here, because I think he needs to clear these 2 drivers as quickly as he can, because he has got some pace.
Yeah, he definitely has got some pace. Like you've mentioned, he wasn't there very often as a reserve, but when he was there, he delivered some very good pace. And it looks like he's got that pace here tonight once again. Just look at where Blackboy... Oh, and we've got a spin. That's Fruitful! Fruitful is off, and he's lost his entire front wing. It looks like out of Stabilo 2, he might have made a mistake. And he's into the wall. He was alone. He was all on his own. And is now down to P6. Oh, no.
No, that's a disaster for him. He was just starting to lose pace with the drivers around him, and I wonder if he's just maybe pushed it too hard. Those inters may be starting to wear.
And the track is drying up. The track is drying up, though.
I wonder if he's going to think about dries.
I reckon he will. Yeah, it's the medium tyre being fitted onto that McLaren, including a new front wing for the man with the number 8 on his car. And there he goes, back out on the track. He's made one perfect strategy call already today, and he's willing to make another one. But that mistake has cost him dearly. And there goes Atis then. On the Camel Straight, he's trying to go for a move with Mali. Mali has got to have some bad memories in this corner. Going side by side with someone, and it looks like they've touched a little bit, but it's pretty close in between the two of them. Through Lecom and through the right hand, and now he goes, and it's nearly Atis going round, but well held from the Haas driver, who keeps the car not only on the track, but especially out of the wall. Wow.
That's incredible car control. He was losing the rear while alongside another driver. It could have gone so wrong. Kieran and Rick have just picked up 3-second penalties. They were right next to each other. I'm guessing they ran too wide at Pouon. And yeah, that's so often you can end up following the other driver around the corner, and something like that's easy to happen. The track, like you say, is starting to dry out. I don't think they'll pit this lap, but I reckon maybe by the end of the next lap we'll see these drivers potentially switching on to dry tyres. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on Fruitful just to see how he's doing on the dries. At the moment, it doesn't look like he's gaining any time with them, so I think it's not the right time to pit just yet.
Something interesting I've noticed is that Rick is shifting down into 7th in order to rotate the car better and to slow it down more quickly without really losing too much time. Alberto pits on this lap.
Yeah.
He thinks that the track is drying up quickly enough. We've got yellow flags. That is Fruitful. So it looks like the only man who's out on the slicks is struggling.
As Alberto called us too early.
I'm not quite sure. We've got yellow flags. It looks like that's Kryptonite. He's fully around. I wonder if there's been contact in between him. And let's see if now Rick is close enough. Still a bit too far away, and especially without the help of DRS, it's going to be tough to get past, and he hasn't got a lot of battery left. While Jabraka, who's losing time to the guys behind, he has got a lot of ERS, however. So he might still be able to defend, and he knows that the longer he keeps those guys behind, even though they are quicker, the higher the chances are that they won't pull those 3 seconds to him that they need once they pass him. But I think it's just going to be a matter of time until those guys behind him start to pass him. Let's see. Oh, Rick goes wide and nearly loses the car through Pouon. On the curb, on the outside, it is wet there, and it is slippery there, so he's got to be careful. And it looks like the track is drying more and more, and it might have been a great strategy call from Alberto. He's still losing time right now, but I think we're very close to the crossover period right now.
Black box,
and he picks up a penalty. Great.
That's an amazing commentator's curse right there. Black box all over the back of Ghost King. I don't know how he's not overtaken him this last lap. He's been... Yep, I expect to see everyone probably following suit. Ates, though, could have a problem because he doesn't really want to pit now if Anryu pits, because he's going to be held up. So I suspect here that if Anryu pits, Ates may have to stay out. No, he pits as well. He's going to lose a lot of time.
But he might have a big enough gap to Ghost King behind. Because it's 4 seconds. And it might have been worth it. Any position changes? Up ahead. I don't know if there was a
contact between Mobarak and
Rick goes on softs. For the final 9 laps of this race, Rick is going to be on the soft tyre, and they are not going to feel great at the end of this race.
No, Alberto, I don't think that's worked out for him. He's just about going to hold his position. But...
Ates, look at that. He's down to P11, and Ghost King has spun out of the pit lane.
Oh, no.
Oh, and he's been disqualified.
It's a huge blow for him. Ates went for softs as well, so this is going to be interesting. Kieran has overtaken Jabraka, but he had to go off a track to do it. Rick has got past Jabraka at the same time, so... Kieran, I think he overtook Jabraka off a racetrack there. If he's going to have to give a place back, he's going to have to give 2 back, because there's now Rick in between him and Jabraka.
Interesting fact is that Ates is on the softs. He lost a lot of time. But he is on the soft tyre. I really wonder, we've got 3 people on the softs. That is Hersey, Rick and Ates. And they're going to have a big advantage now at the start of the stint, but I don't think they're going to make it till the end. I mean, they might make it, but they're going to feel very awful for those who are on the softs right now towards the end of this race.
Might be a chance for Max to not get fastest lap and win now, because those soft tyre runners have a great chance to take that away from him. Yeah, Kieran, for me, it looked like he overtook Jabraka off a racetrack, or by going off a racetrack, but he's kind of had to keep going on with it because Rick has put himself in between the two cars. So here we go then. Rick's got an opportunity here to take P2 and then try and pull enough of a gap until the softs go away from him.
Very close, and it should be enough with the DRS, and it looks like Kieran is pulling to the left-hand side, not even willing to defend. No, he doesn't. And there he goes then. Rick up into P2. And it looks like this race could be the one where he finds his way back into this championship fight. Still losing points to Max, but gaining points on the other two championship contenders in the name of Black Box and Johan, who are not having the best of races here tonight. Black Box only with 1 point, currently P10, and Johan all the way down in 14th.
Yeah, Rick, as it stands, back up to P2 in the championship. Max taking a bit of a stranglehold with 3 rounds to go. And you have to say, he hasn't put a foot wrong tonight, really. He's just been impeccable from start to finish, and he shouldn't feel any pressure now. He's got a comfortable lead. It's all about what Rick and Kieran can do, because, of course, they've got penalties. Jabraka hasn't, so at theory, at least, Jabraka's still the favourite to get P2 once those penalties have been added on. And, oh, we've got yellow flag in Sector 2. What's that for? Fruitful. It's a shame for him, really. His race could have gone so much better than this, but it just hasn't happened. As Rick takes the fastest lap, and that might be, Ates might be the only one really who can take that away from him. Just going to keep an eye on the lap time Ates does. It was a 44.3, I think, from Rick. Yeah, it's Ates half a second slower, so Rick looking good for the fastest lap point as well, in addition to his current P2. And it's been a really good evening for Rick without really being too noticed at times.
Yeah, I gotta say, we've got some drivers who've gained a lot of positions throughout this race, one of them being Alberto. Yeah, and Fruto. It's a shame. It was looking to become such a great evening for the man with the number 8 in the McLaren, and it's gone downhill within a matter of laps. Shame to see, really. But at the moment, it looks like Alberto's gonna come under pressure. I think that was what you were just about to say, right?
Yeah, Alberto's coming under some pressure from Amryu, who could be on course for his best result of the season tonight if he can take this P5 away. And Alberto picking up another penalty. I think that decision to pit earlier for dry tyres has come back to bite him, and maybe he's now just trying to overdrive and attempt to salvage the situation.
Sun's come out now. It's a bit more friendly up in the skies around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. And we've still got 4 laps left in this race, if you include this one. I mean, once Andrew's crossed the line at least.
Yeah, Rick and Kieran now doing pretty similar lap times, so is this the stage where those on soft start to regret their choice, I wonder?
Yeah, I mean, Rick hasn't pulled the gap he would have hoped to pull, because Jabraka is still within those 3 seconds that he needs to be in order to secure second place tonight. And Jabraka, like you've mentioned, who usually before was a bit of a, not really a wingman, but more of a second driver, because his teammate is in the championship fight, has had a great weekend so far and has done better than his teammate.
Yep. Ates, I think it's starting to struggle. Hersey's retired in the pit lane. Yeah, Ates coming under pressure now from Mobarak. So his soft tyres are just starting to give it a ghost, and Black Box may sense an opportunity to grab a few more points, which may not seem too big in the grand scheme of things, but you know, the difference between getting 10th or 8th could mean a lot for Black Box come the end of the season. So every point he can try and gain out of this, salvage out of this, could be absolutely huge.
Yeah, I wonder how much risk he's willing to take, though. I reckon he could just go for it, because, like you've mentioned, 10th and 8th is more of difference than 10th and DNF. So why not just go for it? And he's very, very close to the rear end of Mobarak right now, who is a bit stuck behind Ates, at least towards the end of a lap always. He's gaining some time back. It looks like Andrew is coming close to Alberto as well on the Camel Straight. Let's see if he can make that move stick. He's looking for the outside, and he's getting the outside, and he's getting past. And Mobarak is going for the outside as well against Ates, and he gets the move done even before the braking zone. Nice and easy, and that is not what Black Box wanted to see. Damiano lost position as well to Zane on the Camel Straight. And Black Box would have probably hoped for Mobarak to be stuck behind Ates for a bit longer than that. But he was just too quick on that Camel Straight for the Haas driver, who's really feeling the wear of the mediums, and so was Rick, who's now given DRS to Kieran once again. And that is for position, remember. Currently they're both at the end of this race in 3rd and 4th because of Jabraka behind them.
Yeah, Max is pretty untouchable out front right now. Just ready to start the penultimate lap. It's all about Rick. And of course, Rick and Kieran at the moment both have the same amount of penalties. So this is a fight that matters in terms of where they're going to finish. Black Box has just passed Ates before they got to Blanchimon. Ates, he's got a 3-second gap behind him. If those tyres really go off in these last 2 laps, he may find himself losing out on any points. In fact, he's pitting. So he's decided he doesn't want to try and salvage 10th. He may pit for another... Oh, he's retiring. Wow, that's a bit of a strange one, but there you go.
Yeah, maybe not the mentality you would like to see in league racing, but that's how it is. And now comes Kieran, and he's trying to get past Rick, who's willing to defend his position, but he can't. And both have got nearly no battery charge left, but Kieran has got a lot more tyres left, or a lot more tyre wear left than what Kieran has. And Alberto is, I think he's even going to drop out the points if he keeps on doing this. I think it's 9 seconds already. And yeah, that would drop him outside the points.
Well, yeah, and that's going to give Black Box another helping hand of an extra point. So, yeah, Alberto's really... I think he's sort of lost his head a bit in his last few laps and made a few too many mistakes. But, yeah, real shame for him. He was looking on course some solid points, but too many penalties are going to cost him in the end. Just having a look, Rick is probably going to lose out on a podium here because Jabraka is less than 3 seconds behind him. Oh, Jabraka! Massive moment. He's managed to hold it together but look at the time he's lost.
Wow, and he might come under pressure from Andrew, and he didn't look too quick in the previous couple of laps. So in the final lap, he might, on the penultimate lap, he might have lost his podium, and on the final lap, he may even lose P4.
Yeah, and there's some suggestion that Kieran may end up in the stewards after the race for the contact with Marley. So, you know, there's still potentially podium spots available here depending what happens after the race. Andrew, out of nowhere, has got half a chance of a podium here.
I mean, he would need to gain quite a lot, or Rick's tyres would need to go off quite quickly now. But it looks like he's too far away on the Camel Straight to get past Jabraka. But I tell you what, Black Box might have a shot at Moberg on this final lap as he comes onto the camel straight. He's using his overtake. He's only got 2% left, now 1%, but he's still going for it around the outside now until they come on the final lap for P8 for Black Box, and he gets it, and he gets the move done before he turns into the corner. That is P8, which would become P7 across the line.
Look at the amount of time Rick's losing. He's not safe for his podium just yet. He's really struggling. His tyres, to me, look like they're absolutely shot. He's got no grip through the fast corners whatsoever. Yeah, Jabraka doesn't look overly comfortable either. This last podium spot's still very much up for grabs. And Rick will just be so thankful this is the final lap of the race because his tyres look absolutely shot. I think he'd puncture if he had another lap to do.
Oh, and he spins around! Rick on the final lap of this race has thrown his podium hopes all the way out the window, and I think it might be a puncture at the rear. It is! The left rear has blown up on the final lap of this race as Max comes across the line to win. But Rick, when does his bad luck end? Certainly not today. Kieran comes across the line to take P2. Jabraka comes home to take a podium in Spa, which was certainly unexpected. Anryu picks up 4th, Mali in 5th, Black Box takes 6th with that. And Rick's dreams have been shattered 4 corners before the end of this race as his left rear tyres blown up, and with him his chances and his hopes for the championship as he limps home across the line.
Your heart has to go out to Rick. It's such a gutting moment, and I fear that is his championship hopes gone in that one shot there as he... And it makes you wonder what the puncture probably caused the spin rather than the spin causing the puncture. And his tyres have just cried enough. We mentioned at the time it was a big gamble to take on the softs. He opted to go for it. It was risk versus reward, and ultimately it's not gone his way tonight. And it's a shame. It was looking like maybe Rick was about to put himself back in the championship hunt, but I mean, Max must be looking at these results, seeing where his contenders have finished the race, and thinking, I probably couldn't have dreamt of a better result tonight.
Well, we had heartbreak at the Alfa Romeo garage. We've got delight at the Williams garage, with Max taking the top step with a very dominant win, pole position by quite a lot. Led the race for almost the entirety of those 22 laps, apart from those guys who didn't pit for Inters for first. And he takes the win with him, not the fastest lap. That goes to Rick, but he won't even get the point for that. And a 15-second win for Max. That is dominance here today in Spa. Kieran with a great race finishes P2, which is not certain yet. He's still yet to be investigated after the race for the contact he had with Mali. And Jabraka comes on to take a podium in a great race, and Anryu also with a great result of P4. And it was heartbreak for Rick. And I saw he was struggling. His tyres were full of blisters. And just a couple of corners before the end of this race, his left rear blew up. And I think that is championship over for him.
Yeah, he's absolutely devastated, and you really can't. You can really understand and empathise with him right now. It's got to be heartbreaking, and after such a positive start to the season, it's just petered away for Rick. And you have to say Max is in a driving seat now. Although you've got to say Black Box salvaged P6 out of all that drama. So important points for him, and we may come back to look at these as important points after the next 3 rounds. But you have to say at the moment, the way Max is driving, how he's dominating, it's going to take something special to stop him.
It is. I mean, the pace he's shown, the amount of mistakes he's making is 0 to none, and it's very, very dominant what he showed today. And if he keeps on doing what he's doing so far, or in the last couple of rounds, he's going to walk home with that championship. And it was nearly a perfect weekend for him in Spa. He's now in a back-to-back race win streak, and once he heads to Australia next week, he is willing to make that 3 wins in a row, and that will mean 4 podiums in a row. And within the last 5 races, he's won 3 of them and got a podium in one of them. Only Monaco, he didn't score a point.
To give you a quick idea of provisionally how the standings look, Max would have a 13-point lead over Black Box. Johan would be 19 points adrift and Rick 26. I think you can definitely say without Rick's out of contention and potentially maybe Johan as well.
I really feel with Rick right now, that was such a heartbreaking moment. And I think he'll look back at this race thinking what would have been if I put the mediums on and went with the safe way. But in the end, the track was 3 corners too long, if we can put it that way. Otherwise, he would have had his podium.
Yeah, and if he'd have got through those couple of corners there, you can't really imagine he would have picked up the rest of the lap, because it is literally just flat out until the bus stop chicane. So fine margins, really, really fine margins, and yeah, it's motorsport. Sadly, sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it goes against you. Tonight wasn't Rick's night, but we've still got 3 rounds to go, and this season, with the amount of drama we've had, I'm looking forward to seeing what next week brings at, I believe, Australia.
Indeed, with the new track layout for the first time on the F1 games, and I'm very much looking forward to it with the good racing around Australia now on the F1 game. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to check out our sponsor GT Omega. And yeah, with that being said, I hope to see you all next week. Check out the other streams that were going on at the same time. And this championship fight is not over, but Max has built a good fundamental points lead for the remaining 3 races. But we saw with Rick today, it's never over until it's over. So with that being said, hopefully we'll see you next week. Goodbye and take care.